Alright, flat washer and a lock nut on the bottom of the 9/16 inch bolt. We're just going to snug it up for now, just hand tight is fine. Next we have our special carriage bolt. We're going to use this, we're going to install it through the leg of the spring, and we have to kind of finagle it back. We put it through the spring and we're going to bend back with the spring pressure, and we're going to put the bottom of this threaded part of the bolt through the guide area and into the hole, the third hole that we drilled. Alright, I'm there, and I'm going to use a lock nut. I'm going to hand tighten that lock nut on the bottom. Just to secure. Now I'm going to start tightening up some of these fasteners, and also before I do, I want to make sure that I have this wet line, the spray lines that go out to your boom extension, the arms. It should be underneath the motor mount plate. This will be something you'll have to make sure that it's out of harm's way when you're drilling, but you want to make sure that it is not binding once you have everything installed and are running it out in the field. So this wet line should be underneath these two plates. And again, I'll start tightening parts up. Next down I want to tighten is this Phillips screw area. This bolt we can tighten down good now. After we put the motor on, it'll be impossible to tighten, so we want to go ahead and snug it up and make it nice and tight. It's important to note that this screw should be pretty well snug in that hole, and it should be countersunk. It should be pretty well level with respect to the top of the bolt and the motor mount plate. That way there's no obstructions and it's not rubbing on the motor gear itself. At this point I've tightened up the back bolt and I'm going to install the motor. The motor is going to slide down on these two bolts that we installed earlier, and as we do so, the stub of this output gear motor will go into the hole and slide down into the stainless steel motor mount bracket, and it'll actually go down slightly into the bubble guide itself. As I go down, it's going to slide down easily, but when you go down, these teeth on the cam plate should match up with the actual output gear. When we do, we have to make sure that we have a good fit, and they should mesh. When they mesh, and when this output stud goes into that guide hole, we'll put a pressure sideways and it'll go down. That's in good. We can install a nut here and here, and we can proceed to tighten this motor down and to make sure that all our fittings are tight. There, that side is good. This side is good. If I look down at the machine itself, I can see that the motor is laying flat. It has a good contact, 3 points, 1, 2, and the third being the output stub going into the cam plate and the bubble guide. The final thing to do here is to use your 9/16 tools. Tighten down the center bolt that we've installed way back in the beginning, and we want to tighten it up to the point where it starts to bind, and then we want to back off about a turn, 3/4 turns, to relieve any sort of binding. So right now I'll tighten it. Yeah, there's still plenty in there. A little more. Now you can see there's some binding action going on there. I'm going to back off about a half turn and 3/4 turn at a time until I don't see the binding action. There we go. That was about 3/4 turn. Now I should be good to go. Next section we're going to work on the wiring. Remember what we did on this side we have to do for the other. Red side, right side is done. Blue side can be repeated in the same fashion. And next is electrical wiring.